So, hello everybody. Welcome to my talk, Boosting the Learning of Soft Skills Within the FL Classroom. I must say that I'm happy about what is happening right now, these six conference. To me, it's such a privilege to participate once again. And it's so wonderful to have so many of you here. Thank you so much for joining. I particularly like the motto for this year's conference, achieving goals in the teaching of English. Yes, we've been at achieving goals. We did so when doing face-to-face learning, and this year has been unusual. We've been teaching under very odd conditions, but we've managed, to get past difficulties, things we didn't know. The pandemic took us by surprise. Remote learning took us by surprise, and we had to step back for a moment and think, what do I have to do now? How can I tackle this? How can I cope with this? And it's been a time of deep learning for both instructors, facilitators, and students. And here we are all today coming together in this sixth conference for teachers of English to reflect about our practices. What is needed to be done? What do we need to change? What have we done in order to cope with what happened this year? And since this is all about achieving goals, I wanted to bring in a topic that probably not many of you have heard. You might have heard of it, but not extensively. And I decided to bring this topic today, particularly because of the conditions we have been teaching. We were so used to, and we're still so used to teach our students with what is required, the content that is required for a specific course, but we have neglected something that is highly important, and that's their emotional side, and what is expected from our students once they finish their degrees, once they complete their studies, whether it is um, middle education, secondary education, and once they enter um, higher education, what is expected from them as future employees. And that is something we cannot forget about when we are teaching English in our courses. So once again, thank you for being here today. And let us start with an overview of the points I have prepared for this presentation, for this session. And the first point we'll be talking about notions and scope of soft skills. What are soft skills? What are they about? How many, or yes, how many of them do we know, or if we know any of them? Point number two would be about the importance of soft skills in the foreign language classroom. And the last but not least, the third point, it's all about the classroom activities with soft skills learning embedded. How can you bring them into your teaching? How can you bring them into your classroom, whether it is face-to-face learning or remote learning? So let us start with the first point, and that is notions and scopes of soft skills. And before we start, I found these really interesting quote the other day. I don't know, doing some online research, and it's come from an article called The Human Element in Online Learning. And I do want to point out this term, the human element. We've been doing remote learning, and I think we have in some way forgotten that in the other end of a computer, we have a group of students eager to learn, a group of students with their very own anxieties, fears, uncertainties, and we are in the same situation. And in our teaching, have we have found ourselves in the need to not forget or bring back the human element that probably we had forgotten in when doing face-to-face learning. So let us take a look at it. And it says, for those of you venturing into online education for the first time, we should share one more secret. The distant engagement and bonds we build online don't just enhance the student experience. No, these engagements and bonds, they breathe a whole new life into the teacher experience as well. And that is for sure. I think at the beginning of the pandemic, we panicked. I think we all freaked out and we started thinking, what is going to happen? Um, I need to learn about many different applications. I need to learn about websites. I need to find a way to get my messages across, to get my teaching across. And because we're so busy worrying or yeah, thinking about technology, we forgot that still this engagement with student needed to take place. The bonds we had created when doing face-to-face learning needed to be present in remote learning because it's all about the teaching experience and doing remote learning using technology to get our learning done, to get our teaching done, had brought a new life into the way we teach. So I think this is just a perfect way to introduce the topic. And we move over soft skills. Um, I found this quote, and it was by Robles, and he is an extensive and avid researcher on soft skills within the FL classroom. And it says this: soft skills are character traits, attitudes, and behaviors rather than technical aptitude or knowledge. Soft skills are the intangible, non-technical personality-specific skills that determine one's strength as a leader, facilitator, mediator, and negotiator. Yes, I think is if you take a look at this, we have these notion of intangible skills that are not particularly measurable as opposed to the hard skills. But I want to emphasize these last terms: leaders, facilitator, mediator, and negotiator. Why? Because our teaching should encourage more than the mere acquisition of knowledge and and see beyond. You know, why is this? Simply put, let's stop treating our learners as sole recipients of information, but rather let's treat them as future active members of a society we are all part of. We should teach our students to be leaders, to understand what leadership is. We should teach our students to become facilitators of knowledge with the people they're surrounded by. We should teach our students to be mediators in whatever life situation they find themselves in. They should know how to negotiate in their several life scenarios they can encounter not only in their personal but also in their professional life. And I would go back to this: soft skills, character traits, attitudes, and behaviors. And I think by looking at these first two lines, we can see that we're not dealing with technical knowledge here. No, we are dealing with, I don't know, I think going back to the human aspects of our students. As I said, they're not just mere recipients of knowledge, but rather they are people with life purposes. They're people with life goals that we need to take into account when teaching. We cannot forget about that. That is actually the first thing we should consider when conducting our courses. Now, there is not a clear consensus as to how many soft skills there are, how many or which ones are they. Nargarden lists 4 groups of soft skills, and he includes this one: interaction, self-management, communication, and organization. Now, you can see that for each group, we have several soft skills. We have attitude, awareness, conflict handling, tolerance. For self-management, we have decision-making, willingness to learn, self-discipline, and resistance to stress. For communication, we have listening skills and presentation skills. And for organization, we have problem solving. This is by Niergarten. We also have, as I said, there's not a clear consensus. You might find literature saying These are the soft skills that need to be promoted in the classroom, whereas there's other literature saying there are more to think of, there are more to include in the teaching, but I'm just bringing different sources so we have a better understanding, even though they might differ at the end. Bottom line, they do have many, many aspects in common. And you will see at the end how the way I will sum up the different soft skills that I will talk about throughout the course of this presentation. Then I have the following slide, and this is by Shakir. Shakir proposes the following skills that can be defined as soft skills. We have communication skills, and they are all about expressing thoughts and arguments with clarity. We all have critical thinking and problem solving, referring to the ability to analyze, evaluate, and apply knowledge. We have the ability to cooperate with others, which is the ability to work in a team and cooperate with individuals coming from various backgrounds in terms of society, education, and culture, as well as being able to achieve the same goals. We have lifelong learning and information management skills regarding to the ability or skill to learn and search and process relevant information. We have ethics and professional moral, the ability to apply moral standards in context of professional practice. And last but not least, I have leadership skills, the ability to lead and understand the leadership roles. So I'm very sure that this is not new to you, and you might be aware of these soft skills. But what I do question though is whether we as facilitators cater for the actual needs of our learners and include the teaching and the learning of these soft skills in our teaching experience, in our teaching activities, in our learning activities, as part of their disciplinary knowledge, which is most often subject-based, content and specific and formally assessed. Are we doing this? Are we actually considering the soft skills in our teaching? Our learning experiences, our learning activities should be designed in such a way that I promote communication skills. They should be designed in a in a manner that students will learn how to think critically, and they will learn how to solve problems. They will learn how to cooperate with others. They will know how to process relevant information and discard information that is not relevant to the task they are completing. And I think the most important here is accounting for the ethics and the professional moral. Are we teaching our students to have the ability to apply moral standards in whatever situation they are part of? And you might agree with me in this. We are seeing students lacking this professional moral ability, these moral values, these principles, because probably we have not been as emphatic with the teaching of these soft skills. Our teaching should be a place, or our classrooms, whether they are face-to-face classroom or online classrooms, should be spaces for students to not only be aware of these soft skills, but also find a way to develop these soft skills. And we are the ones facilitating this knowledge, not only the knowledge pertaining to the content we're teaching, pertaining to English education, but also to this soft skills for the future citizens of this world. Now, in order to show the significance of these soft skills in our teaching, I will resort to two terms. Why are these soft skills pivotal? And I will refer to these two terms: global citizen and employability. What is a global citizen? A global citizen is someone who identifies with being part of an emerging world community and whose actions contribute to, and I'm highlighting these words in red, and whose actions contribute to building this community's values and practices. Question for you all, my fellow teachers. Do we want all our students to become global citizens? Are we doing our part as instructors in promoting this global citizen mindset? Are we doing so? Let's go back to the definition here. A global citizen is someone who identifies with being part of an emerging world community. You know, globalization is taking place and has been taking place for many, many, many years now. And we cannot continue, we cannot carry on with this idea of isolation. I'm an individual. Yes, we are all individuals. We have our very own opinions. We have our own principles, but we belong to a society that in turn belongs to a much larger society. We are part of an emerging world community, in a community that requires tolerance nowadays, a community that requires active members, a community that requires critical thinkers and agents that will bring change into life as we know it. And it is highly significant to have our students understand these ideas, to have our learners understand that they belong to a much larger society. And this society will only strengthen if they are capable of strengthening with their own values and the practices necessary to consolidate these values. Once, and this leads me to the second term I brought up, which is employability. What is employability? Our classroom should resemble the daily life situations our students would encounter in their everyday lives and also in their professional lives, the situations they will find in their workplace. When teaching students, when teaching our learners, we should create a class in the classroom an atmosphere of curiosity, an interest during a time in which our learners are engaged and interact genuinely with one another. Employability. I brought this up because I think we need to bear in mind that whoever we have in our classroom is there for a reason. We're not just teaching for the sake of teaching. We're not just sharing knowledge for the sake of sharing knowledge. We are there with one purpose: to prepare those students, to prepare our learners for the world they will encounter outside the classroom. A world that is becoming highly competitive, a world that doesn't wait, but is in active and constant change. And for that reason, our students should be able to tackle those daily challenges. Our students, and we also need to be aware and mindful that our students will become future employees. They will become future employees, or if not, they are not employees, they will be their own bosses. They will have their own businesses, their own companies, but they will have to respond to a much larger society as well. So are we teaching in such a way that the students that we have nowadays in our classrooms will be eligible for the job, for a job position they will seek later on in their lives? Are we teaching our students? Are we showing them what is important for them to know? Not only in terms of the content that we are teaching, which is specific to the class we're teaching, that in these cases, it's English education. But instead of that, are we seeing beyond our noses? And are we teaching with this idea in mind? The students will eventually apply for a job. And what will the future employees find in them? What they will look for when checking their resumes, what they will look for. Will they look for leaders? Will they look for critical thinkers? Will they look for problem solvers? My answer is yes. That's what they will look for. And even though you might be thinking, why should I care for the global citizen mindset in the classroom? Why should I care for employability in the classroom? We need to, I think, as teachers, that we are training the future members of this society, of these uh, ever-changing society. We cannot disregard the fact that these people will bring change into the world through through their job positions, and it is our responsibility to show them what is expected from them from this very moment. Even though we're talking about long term, when they become employees, our learners should have this idea in mind. What is expected from them? What is society requiring from them? So now that we have discussed these two terms, I would like you to think about how can I account for this global citizenship mindset, employability when teaching English. You see, and I have this very interesting quote from Robles, and he asserts that there are 10 soft skills which are perceived as necessary in the workplace. The perceptions of executives include soft skills such as communication, courtesy, flexibility, integrity, interpersonal skills, positive attitude, professionalism, responsibility, teamwork, and work ethics. And the integration, this is by Bartel, the integration of soft skills increases the students' chance of employment and presents them with better prospects in terms of their future successful careers. You see how important it is to accommodate for the learning of these soft skills in our classrooms. We could be increasing our students' employment opportunities. We could be increasing the prospects of a better future and successful career for all learners if we teach them to be courteous, if we teach them to be flexible in the workplace, if we teach them to have a positive attitude every time they show up at the workplace, if we teach them to be professional and responsible and work as a team, with a proper work ethics. Now, how can we bring this into the classroom? I have brought several activities for you, and that takes me to the third point in this presentation. As you can see here, I have this image in which I present the most valued soft skills that employees or employers find or look after when they are conducting a hiring process. We have confidence. How confident is the person I will hire? Do I see a positive attitude? A person that is self-confident, that is that has this idea of self-esteem also? Do I want to hire somebody who knows how to manage his or her time? Do I want to hire people with self-management skills? Do I want to hire people that is friendly, who is ambitious in terms of what he or she wants to achieve in life? Do I want to hire somebody with focus, with common sense, with situational awareness, with enthusiasm and optimism, and with empathy? Yes, I would say most of employers will look for that in their future employees. And my question is, before we address the classroom activities that I brought for you, is it possible to teach this in our classrooms? Yes. Is it possible to embed these soft skills in our English as a foreign or second language learning activities? Yes, I would say yes. Every single activity we prepare should account for self-management skills, should account for common sense, should account for empathy, should account for focus. And I think this has become even more important now that we have been doing online learning, we have been doing remote learning, and our students have had to, in some way, learn to be independent learners, to be autonomous learners, because we are not there to monitor whether they're learning or not, whether they are getting up on time to do their homework, if they are finding for the best resources to understand what they have to do. We're not there at home, but whatever activity, whatever homework, whatever project we prepare for them should account for this, should include for an idea of, I'm learning soft skills for my future. I'm learning to be responsible now because eventually I will be asked to be responsible at my workplace. I'm being taught time management skills because eventually I would have to manage my times to cope with deadlines, to cope with due dates, to finish my projects on time, to finish or to submit my proposals on time. And I would say to do this is it's very likely we can do this in the classrooms. Okay, so the first activity that I suggest and our overall literature suggests to promote soft skills learning is task-based and problem-solving activities. You are mindful, and I'm very positive you have heard about task-based approach when doing language learning. And as a definition for these activities, we have this. These activities provide the students with a task or problem which needs to be solved. At the same time, they require the students to use the target language, of course. That's the whole purpose, to engage the students in activities that will not only be interesting, but will account for the teaching and the learning of the target language. And these activities should involve meaningful real-life situations. And in result, when they come together and they work together, these activities will result in team building. And they will grow with this, and they will complete the activity with this idea that I didn't do it myself by my own means. No, I work together. I work with some more people in the completion of this task, in the achievement of this common goal. And as an example, I suggest having the students, this is just an example. I know that you as educators and facilitators might find many and several opportunities to bring the task-based learning approach in your classes. Having the students work on a proposal for a safe return to face-to-face learning, I actually use this idea in one of my courses in this last term. I had my students work on a proposal to safely return to face-to-face learning. Once that is happened, I have like 25 proposals that my students from professional practicum did. And I must say that the product that I saw when revising these projects was very enlightening. They had so many ideas. They had so many good suggestions, many good recommendations, I would say. And these recommendations could perfectly be adapted or included in a higher level proposal for returning to classes, and that was only a very simple activity, but required for them to think critically, that required for them to think about the solution of problems, and problems that are very much current, that are applicable to the times that we are living. And I would say, yes, think of, when thinking about proper tasks for students for learning language, think about their interest. What do they like to do? Think about what catches their attention. What are the topics they're constantly talking about? Social media is so important nowadays. Celebrities, lifestyle, and everything, and climate change even. And those are topics that our students are constantly being exposed to. So let's account for those topics when designing tasks that our students will find meaningful. Now we have group work involving discussions and debates. What happens here? Where students participate in the group discussion and contribute to the discussion with their ideas and opinions. SWOT activities, and this refers to strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats activities, or strengths and weaknesses. And they are a way to prompt critical thinking skills and problem solving. As an example, we could have our students think about specific situations which might emerge in the family or workplace. Group work involving debates. I think you would say yes, debates are, they always promote and they encourage participating in students, and having students, it's always important for them to feel that their voice is being heard, that their voice is being respected in classroom, because we have students, especially we have middle school or secondary education learners, they like to be heard. They like to feel respected as young adults. And whenever we give them room for their ideas to be heard and their principles to be heard, we are promoting this sense of, I like this. I'm being respected as a student, and eventually I respect my classmates' point of view, and that is tolerance. We're teaching tolerance. We're teaching acceptance. That doesn't mean that they will have to maybe agree with everything they hear or everything they're exposed to, but they will understand that the world is full of, oh gosh, it's a multicultural place. People that bring their own experiences, their own life experiences in their daily interactions, and they will have to cope with that and learn how to deal with that as well. Then we have delivering oral and poster presentations on specific topics. Goals and objectives of these activities are to improve speaking skills. At the same time, students work on effective and concise communication and to aim to communicate their message and opinion effectively. I think this is highly beneficial and necessary now that we're doing remote learning. We I think we found ourselves in the daunting task of how can I promote speaking skills when doing online learning. I need to connect today. I need to do an online session, but I have so many people in the group in the course, and how can I make room for everybody's participation? How can I deal with the teaching of speaking skills? And I think this is just highly important. Poster presentation specific topics, and we can have individual presentations or group presentations, and we can have our students present one at a time on topics that are relevant to their life experience. And as I said, think about this. It's important. The last two lines. The aim of for these activities is to have the students communicate their message and opinions effectively. As I was saying, our students need to be heard. They want their voices to be heard. They have a very strong opinions about topics, about situations that they see they encounter in their lives. So why not? Let's give them a chance to be heard. And we have role plays and dialogues. Of course, these activities include simulations of gatherings, meetings, interviews, and workplace discussions, as well as workplace situations which involve ethical issues and dilemmas, as well as providing feedback to colleagues, subordinates, and supervisors. See, let's bring scenarios to the classrooms in which students will have to act as employers and employees, subordinates and supervisors. Maybe one in these activities of role plays, one of them could be a student applying to a scholarship, and another student can behave as the dean of the faculty, conducting these interviews to offer grants, to offer scholarship opportunities. Why not? And by doing this, we'll be promoting healthy discussions. And last but not least, I have writing activities. Writing appropriate curricula vitae, writing appropriate cover letters and emails, writing official requests, reports, or complaints using appropriate language and structures are activities which involve writing and require the students to implement their writing skills and communication skills as well. We have addressed speaking skills activities. We have addressed in this part writing skill activities. So yes, I mean, we need to get creative with this. We need to get creative, and as we get creative with the design of our learning activities, let's not just forget what it is that we want to do. What are the type of learners we want to teach, and what are the type of learners we want for the society to have as active members. Before we go, I would say we've talked about several, and I gave a list of the soft skills found in literature, but I would say that these are the ones we need to focus when developing our classes. Communication. Let's teach our students to communicate. Our learners should learn how to communicate effectively, how to get their messages across, how to get their ideas out, and at the same time respect what other people have to say about those ideas. Let's teach cultural awareness. We are part of a global community. So many cultures come into play. And are our students ready to understand what other cultures have to bring to the table? Leadership. Are we teaching students to be leaders, to effectively run a business, to effectively uh, manage or literate a group, a teamwork activity? Relationship building, it's so important for the students not to feel as if they're just students in the classroom, but they are members of a smaller community in the classroom. And everything they have to do or think or say, it is important. Planning, how important is planning nowadays? Time management skills. Our students have spent 9 months at home dealing with problems at home, probably dealing with lack of resources, dealing with so many problems, and they've had to find a way to plan their learning, to find their courses, to plan what every single activity they have to do. How we taught them to monitor their own time management and see, okay, this is what we have to do. This is the way you can do it. These are the strategies you can use at home to effectively run your time. I would say, let's reflect on this. Let's reflect on what we have been doing so far, and change what is needed to be changed, and modify our practices. You, and as the last element here, are the most important here. You as a facilitator and the students, the learners you have in the classroom are important elements in the teaching. And we should find a way to encourage one another in our learning, in our teaching. The moment we regard the online, the human element in our teaching, that is the moment we are really respecting what learning is all about. Let's have our students come together, and let's make ourselves as facilitators be part of that experience of building a world community. So that is the end of my talk, and I'm fairly positive that you have questions. So if you have any, this is the time to share it.